Hey everybody, this is Jared. Obviously, um, I have tried to make a video twice. The first time I was outside. The sun got my camera hot, or my phone hot, and it started acting up, which stinks because that was the best one in my opinion. The second one was okay. I did it down here in the basement, and my phone ran out of memory and stopped the recording. So guess what? I deleted some stuff, and hopefully I've got enough memory this time. So uh, I'm putting this up because I want to talk about what happened with Phillip, kind of what everything that went down, and yeah, mostly so I can inspire people, I guess, or help other people in their faith journey. So I really haven't talked about what happened in the operating room. Christine hasn't really either, in detail. I'm going to get to the God moments, because that's what this video is kind of about. It's about glorifying God. It's not about my faith or Christine's faith or how awesome we are or anything like that. Trust me, all I'm doing is following Him, plugged into the vine, and that's it. So anyways, so let me say this. You find out real quick what you believe when your son's born and he's not breathing. So I'll make a couple of points, maybe three, in this video here. Point number one is already have your mind made up about something before you encounter it. And that, in this case, was, what did I believe about God? Who is God? You know, Jesus said to His disciples, "Who do you say I am?" So I say His name is Rapha. His name is faithful and true. So people have been telling us, you know, you handled this really well. Y'all have handled this great, actually, and you know, we did, but it was not because anything in and of ourselves. It's because we have a relationship with Jesus Christ, and God has told me so much about my son. Man, He's talking to me about a boy, I think back in 22, last year, on June the 29th, almost a year ago. God told me Philip's name. His name was Philip. My dad's name was Philip, but He told me his name was not just Philip because that was my dad's name. He told me his name was Philip because he was, Philip means lover of horses, and that's what he's going to run with. He's not going to run with just a footman, he's going to run with a horseman. So that is based off of Jeremiah 6:12, I believe it is, and that's why his name is Philip. He's told me things about Philip. Man, so much has happened during the pregnancy, even with Philip. Back on in 2023, my wife had an AFP test, and for those of you who don't know what that means, that has to do with spinal bifida and some other things, I think. She failed the test by just a small margin. She came in that morning where she found out, and she was kind of concerned. At least her face looked concerned. And I was already built up to the point where, like, well, God had been talking to me about my boy. And I'm like, so what? You know, it's like, so what? You know, no offense, but what do they know? I'm listening to the voice of the Lord. So, you know, further as they went along, I called a friend. We prayed. No, they prayed with me. Was greatly encouraged. And that day, I won't go into detail of all the stuff that happened that day. Actually, Christine, I think she briefly left home and then came back. I think it was a Saturday, yeah. And I told her, hey, I said, sit down. I'm fixing to prophesy over our son. I prophesied some things about him that I'm not going to release yet, and it was pretty powerful. we was both bawling. The Lord just impressed my heart to prophesy those things over, and I just remember having great joy, like laughing joy after I got off the phone with my friend earlier that day, and just God already took care of it. So we did the ultrasound at maternal fetal medicine in Charlotte. There's one I think in December, one in January, if I'm not mistaken. You know, when I went there, the people were nice and everything, and just telling us what the test meant. I think after the first lady was sitting there just explaining all this stuff to me, I think after about a minute and a half, I just kind of tuned out. I was like, let's get the ultrasound over, because I knew, and this is not arrogance, guys. This is just confidence in God. It's trust in Him, and He's awesome. But I knew it was going to be fine. We already found out, I think, that the first time we went there, I think the ultrasound, we found out he was a boy. And the second ultrasound, they had to do a second one because he was not grown far enough along in his development to see everything they need to see. His spine's fine, obviously. I'm telling you all this to make a point, and that point is, my mind was made up by the time I got into the OR, before we had any idea anything was going to be wrong. So I'm telling you, your mind has to be made up about who God is. It doesn't matter what you see with your eyes, your mind has to be made up. Your heart has to be settled. If you're double-minded, you're going to be unstable in all your ways. You know, the Apostle James says a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. You need to be single-minded. So I had my mind made up by the time I got to the OR. So I guess I can get to what happened in the OR. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I don't think there is. So listen, guys. Christine was in labor for 35 hours. Her water broke at 8:10 on June the 2nd. 5 minutes before the alarm went off for me to get ready to go to prayer at church. So we rushed there to the hospital, got, most of the stuff was packed, got that and got to the hospital. Got in there, and she began her labor. Her wonderful family and friends, her brother and her sister came over, and our friend Lindsay, and they stayed the night. So they gave her magnesium sulfate because she had preeclampsia. It went full blown when her water broke. It was at the threshold prior to that point. Anyways, so eventually, after a while, they was looking at the vitals and everything and Phillip's vitals, and Phillip's vitals were showing he was tired and that the best thing to do was a C-section. So maybe we should have done one sooner. Anyways, they said, okay, we're going to do a C-section. Looks like mama's getting tired and the baby's getting tired. So that's what we're going to do. I'm like, okay, sounds good. Okay, let's do it. Whatever. So they went and prepped the room. I sat outside in a chair, had all the scrubs and stuff on, and then they brought me in the room, had a blue, took me up to where Christine's head was, and from like the neck up, and a sheet in front of her so you could see that her lower body where they was operating on her, and the anesthesiologist back there with his assistant behind us, and they had a pediatrician there ready for the baby to check him out, and the doctor doing the C-section. And I knew nothing about C-sections. I had no idea how long they last or anything like that. So, it had been, I don't know how long it had been. Maybe a minute. Maybe, I don't know. Give or take a minute, maybe two. I don't know how long it takes to move all the cut somebody up and move their organs out of the way to get a baby out. And I said to the anesthesiologist, I said, I'm going to cry when I see this baby come out. So he said, stand up. So I said, stand up, look over there, there's your baby. So I stood up, looked over there and looked at my baby. I look at Phillip and he's blue, and he had me sit down real quick. And got to thinking, well, babies are discolored when they're born. I'd heard that, but he wasn't crying, he wasn't making any noise. So I was like, well, that's not normal. And then I heard them talk about doing compressions. So sorry. I heard them talk about doing compressions, and I heard them count 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. And I heard the pediatrician say, you don't stop until I tell you to stop. So now, lungs, heart, whatever, they're trying to get him back. Man, my eyes are burning. Sorry. So at that point, like, well, I know what God's told me. I'm not backing off that. I don't care how crazy I have to look. But so I started just declaring the word of the Lord over him. So, point number 1, have your mind made up. Who's God? Is he the healer? Is he faithful and true? He told me all about so many things about my son. So my mind's made up. My son's going to live through this. He's going to be fine. Because God told me. So I started declaring the word of the Lord over Philip. I said, Philip David Jonah Robbins shall not die but live and declare the works of the Lord. I said, no weapon formed against Philip David Jonah Robbins shall prosper, and everything rises up against him we shall condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and their vindications from the Lord. From me, saith the Lord. I quoted, that's Psalm 118:17. That's Isaiah 54:17. I quoted Jeremiah 29:11. I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, to give you a hope in the future. Put Philip's name in that, and the same thing with Psalm 103 verses 1 through 6. I began declaring that over him. He's not going to die. I began binding the spirit of premature death. I came against the spirit of premature death. I began speaking life over the situation, and because I knew that was the will of God. And a lot of you are like, well, what? Because I'm sure people are curious, and I'll just tell you, what was I thinking at that point? Was I scared? Was I like doubtful? Honestly, I wasn't. I don't know how to explain it. I had peace. I knew the will of the Lord concerning the matter, and I was not going to back off what he had told me and come out of agreement with him. Even to the point where if I had to go there and raise my son from the dead, I was going to do that. I don't care how stupid I looked. It's my son. You understand? That's my son. And God's just been so good to me, Christine. Sorry, so there was like this thought, of course, that came, but I immediately cast it down. What if my son dies? Like, well, he's not going to. You say, well, what if he did? Let me put it this way. I had a dream in, January the 19th, 2020. I had a prophetic word back on May the 11th, 2009. But the 2020 dream, this is a word about carrying on the family tree. And I had, people well-meaning trying to tell me, you could adopt, you could do this, you could get an embryo. And I appreciate that. That's not what God told me. He said carry on the family tree. So Philip is part of that, carrying on the family tree. So at that point, here's point number 2. Point number 1, already have your mind made up. Be single-minded. Point 2, there's always a chance to abort your miracle, and that was it in the operating room. I could have come out of agreement with God. Amos 3:3 says, how can two walk together unless they be agreed, or how can two make an appointment unless they agree? That's talking about being in agreement with somebody. And I'm not going to come out of agreement with the Lord and come into agreement with what the devil's saying, which is when I'm watching with my five senses over there, I've got to go by, walk by faith, not by sight. So y'all either think I'm full of it or I'm crazy. I don't really care. I'm just telling you, this is what happened. Or maybe you think I'm telling the truth. Hopefully most of y'all think that, because I am. But I remember, while this is going on, I'm stroking my wife's head, her head right there, we're brushing her hair, and I'm trying to remember at what point it happened. But she looked up at me. She said, "Is Phillip okay? I don't hear him crying." And he's gonna be okay. I said, "It's okay." I looked at her. She's pretty drugged up from the stuff they gave her for the surgery. Of course, I've got nothing like that. I'm experiencing all this stuff, and but like I said, I had a confidence from God and a peace. So they get, I hear them doing the compression still, and I remember hearing the pediatrician say, "That's much better. Good job, everybody," or something along those lines. I appreciate it. "That's much better. Good job, everyone." And I smiled because I knew that part of this fight was over. Another thing is, if you're in a situation like that, just speak life. Just speak life. That's another thing. So, after that, he went to the nursery. Let me just say this about Christine. While Christine was being operated on, she actually had like a vision of Phillip being taken out of her womb and being blue, and then working on her. I don't know how that works because she had the sheet blocking her view just like I did. But I told her it's a vision. It might be, some people might call it seeing with the eyes of your heart. The other thing is I think she heard the audible voice of God say, "Phillip shall not die but live and declare the works of the Lord." I didn't hear it, but I've had that happen to me one time, and a coworker didn't hear it. Who was in another room over from me, so I don't know how that works. If it wasn't, she clearly heard it. So anyways, they moved him to the nursery. They told us what was going on. We got to see him, and the rest is history. We appreciate all the prayers, guys. It's been nuts. Never been through anything like it, and hopefully don't have to go through anything like it again. But if I do, I hope this video has helped somebody. I hope it's inspired you. To just stand on what God's told you, but whatever God's told you, and so a sheep knows the shepherd's voice. A lamb has to follow a sheep who knows the shepherd's voice until that lamb knows their shepherd's voice. He's just been so good. It's been, Phillip hit milestone after milestone. They got him off the intubation tube. They took the EEGs off. They took the feeding tubes off. They took the leads off, and eventually, he got to come home. It's just been a journey of seeing God's faithfulness. Faithful and true is His name. If y'all don't want this long 20-minute or so video, I will put up a post probably too. Hopefully this blessed y'all. I just wanted to share what happened, and just how awesome God is. He never leaves us nor forsakes us. He's there in our darkest time. He's a very present help in times of trouble. He's just amazing. We're supposed to, we will hear strangers' voices, but we don't follow those. And I just want to brag on God and share what happened, because He's awesome. I just wanted to get on here and share that, and I just want to again thank everybody for praying for us, and all the texts, the calls, and just the concern and compassion you show me and my wife, and our son. And he's an awesome little boy. He's a hungry little booger. I love him to death, and every time I look at him now, I'm looking at God's faithfulness. So thanks for watching, and if you made it this far, and if not, no biggie. God bless you. Bye-bye.